Hello, everyone. It's Chrispy Patty. Look at this book, Paper Son, the inspiring story of Tyrus Wong, the Immigrant and Artist, by Julie Leung and Chris Sasaki. All right, I believe I pronounced those names right. Oh, cool. Look at that. Those are really special kites, huh? All right, the illustrations are beautiful and amazing. Ah! Look at that. Wow. Up here, for my parents in their journey to mom and dad. Aw. Whoa. All right. Before he became an artist named Tyrus Wong, he was a boy named Wong Ging Yao, who traveled with his father across a vast ocean to America, clutching a bundle of papers in his hand. They're on this giant boat. There he is right there. The papers were not for drawing monkeys, which he loved to do. They were papers describing the life of another Chinese boy whom Ging Yao was pretending to be. He had to memorize every word. In 1919, Chinese immigrants were not allowed into the United States unless they could prove they were citizens of high status, a scholar, a merchant, a business owner, or the child of such a citizen. So the boy's father pretended to be a merchant named Luk Git. Wang Ging Yao became his son, Luk Tai Yao. He was now a Zi Jai, a paper son. My apologies for mispronouncing the names if I do. I am doing my best. I would love a comment if you want to teach me. I hope to go to China someday. All right. Every night, the boys studied the answers to exacting questions. What are the names of the families who live in your village? Who is the leader of your district? How far is it to the next village? The immigration officials will ask me the same questions and compare our answers to make sure you are my son, his father said. If they do not match, you will be sent back and never see Gumsan. Gumsan means gold mountain in Cantonese. That was what the Chinese called America because of the opportunities there. Huh. Did you know that? See, his father would say, pointing to the horizon, life in Gumsan will be like a blank paper, and we will decide how to mark it. The boy followed his father's gaze to where water met the sky. Maybe he would spot a glimmer of Gold Mountain Tool. At last, they arrived at Angel Island. His father, who had been in America before, cleared immigration quickly, but the boy was held back. Scared and alone, Ging Yao was taken to a wooden house filled with strangers. There he waited. Days turned to weeks. This new land was not what he expected. The streets were not lined with gold. The barracks were crowded and dirty. He missed his father very much. There was no drawing paper, no ink, no paint. He watched the sun move slowly across the sky, always arching back toward the home he'd left behind. Finally, Ging Yao was brought in front of 3 men who bombarded him with questions. How many windows does your house have? What direction does your village face? Where did you go to school? The boy was nervous, but he remembered all his answers from the coaching papers his father had given him. He was released from Angel Island. His father was waiting for him with arms outreached. Oh. Now we must Now we must look for opportunities, he said. At school in Sacramento, Ong Yao was given a new name by his teachers, a name that combined his real name and his paper name. Tai Yao was Americanized as Tyrus Wong. Tyrus did not like school. He preferred sketching to science, doodles to diagrams, art to arithmetic. Oh, there he is drawing his monkey, writing his name out. Tyrus's father had been well educated in China, but to be a Chinese immigrant was to be a servant, a laundryman, a waiter. And to find these jobs, he often had to travel far, leaving Tyrus alone for months. Still, his father believed life in America would be like a blank paper. One day he brought home a brush and made Tyrus practice Chinese calligraphy. Because they could not afford ink and paper, Tyrus wrote with water on old newspapers. And after the paper dried, his father would say, "One more time." His father borrowed enough money to send Tyrus to Otis Art Institute in Los Angeles. Tyrus learned to paint and draw in Western style, smudging thick charcoal to form shadows and mirroring the way light hits objects. He also studied artwork from China's Song dynasty, when watercolors and simple lines communicated much by showing little. The lushness of a flower could be felt with gradual increases of color, and mountains could loom in the distance with a few jagged lines. Wow. In the evenings, Tyrus mopped the floor as the school janitor. He swirled the soapy water around, the mop dancing in his hands like a paintbrush. Look at that. Tyrus graduated at the top of his class and began working as a in-betweener at Walt Disney Studios. In the early days of animation, in-betweeners drew the frames in between a movie's key art, the same scenes over and over, with only small changes each time to create the feeling of movement. The work was boring and his eyes throbbed. Oh, there's Mickey Mouse. One day, Tyrus heard that Disney was making a movie called Bambi, about a young deer who must learn to survive without his mother. But the animators were having trouble creating the backgrounds. Tyrus thought about the mother he had left behind in China, and the father who always believed in him. He thought about his style of painting, one that combined East and West, his past and his present. Tyrus saw an opportunity. He spent days painting landscapes. Instead of drawing a forest scene leaf by leaf, tree by tree, he created the feeling of woods and mountains with sparse brushstrokes and soft watercolors. Where other artists might use 10 strokes of a brush, he used 5. The result was breathtaking. Walt Disney loved it. He instructed his animators to follow Tyrus's style. There's Walt Disney right there. Bambi became a groundbreaking film. Audiences and critics gushed about the art, how it communicated so much by showing so little. But how you could almost smell the mossy green of the woods and hear the rushing water of the brook. But in the end, Tyrus was credited only as a background artist. Walt Disney Studios fired Tyrus after an employee strike, even though he did not participate. It would be many years before the world saw Tyrus Wong for the artist that he was. But Tyrus never stopped painting, and not just on paper. Throughout his life, he would draw his art on ceramics, silk scarves, murals, menus. Tyrus always found new ways to leave his mark. As an old man, Tyrus discovered a love of kites, caterpillars and pandas, fish and butterflies. He would tell people he wanted to be looking up. How else could one see Gold Mountain? Wow. Oh! On sunny days, you could often find Tyrus Wong on the beach, facing the ocean he crossed so long ago, flying a large, colorful kite he'd made himself, glimmering gold where water met the sky. Wow, look at that kite. There you go. Wow, look at this. Pictures. Okay, author's note. When Tyrus Wong was just 9 years old, he boarded the SS China and with his father, seeking a brighter future in the United States. They immigrated during a time when the Chinese Exclusion Act, the first federal law designed to prevent an ethnic group from entering the country, was in full effect. Tyrus's father knew that some exceptions were made, mainly for those of high social status or blood relatives of American citizens. To meet the criteria for entry, many immigrants assumed false identities, forging papers that raised someone's status or falsely documented family ties to Americans were sold at premium price, creating a black market for paper sons and daughters. From 1910 to 1940, over 170,000 Chinese were processed through Angel Island Immigration Station outside San Francisco Bay. An estimated 80 to 90% of them were paper sons and daughters, among them Tyrus Wong and his father. From those humble beginnings, Tyrus would go on to graduate from Otis Art Institute with honors. In a time when most Chinese immigrants worked as manual laborers, this was no small feat. In 1938, Tyrus got a job at Walt Disney Studios as a lowly in-betweener. When Disney began creating Bambi, Tyrus saw a chance to impressed Walt Disney with a series of magnificent landscape paintings. Promoted to inspirational sketch artist, he spent 2 years illustrating hundreds of scenes that would influence every part of the motion picture, down to the music and special effects. In the film's credit, he is listed merely as a background artist despite his much larger role. His art direction, inspired by his knowledge of Chinese art, would in turn inspire a generation of American animators. After Disney, Tyrus continued to work in Hollywood, illustrating scripts and storyboards for over 2 decades at Warner Brothers. He also painted ceramics, holiday cards, magazine covers, scarves, and menus, and after he retired, he discovered a passion for kite building. In 2016, Tyrus passed away at the age of 106 after a lifetime of creating art. I first learned about Tyrus Wong about his obituary in the New York Times. He's one of the preeminent Chinese American artists of our time, and yet I had never heard of him. Growing up the only child of immigrants, I had very few picture books available to me about the accomplishments of fellow Chinese Americans, much less artists. I wanted to change that for future generations. My own parents immigrated to the United States from a village just 40 miles away from Taishan, where Tyrus and his father were born, or were from. In our families, I see the same resilience and ability to thrive in a new country that did not welcome them. Despite the lack of recognition throughout his career, Tyrus Wong always found a way to express himself through art. His story reminds us that immigrants, wanted or not, leave an essential mark on the masterpiece that is this nation. Illustrator's note: Tyrus Wong has been a huge influence on me as an Asian American artist working in animation and illustration. I still remember being captivated by Tyrus's impressionistic work on Bambi and how the atmospheric brushstrokes brought the sights, sounds, and smells to the forest to life in my childhood imagination. Throughout his career, Tyrus drew imagination from within. He remained honest to his craft and his Eastern heritage, paving the way for more widespread acceptance of Asian American artists. His story encourages me to never stop creating, and I hope his work is cherished for many future generations. Wow, look at that. There's his immigration card. And Tyrus posing for a Venus watercolor pencils advertisement, 1953. These are all courtesy of Tyrus Wong's family. Tyrus and his family, 1957, courtesy of the family. There he is, his family. Tyrus with an owl kite, 2002, age 92. Look at that, age 92, 92. Boy. Tyrus front right, so he's right there. Pictured with schoolmates, 1923, courtesy of Tyrus Wong family. Wow, he lived to 106. Can you imagine all that he saw in his lifetime and all the illustrations and kites that he brought to this world? Well, thank you for that story. That was really, really good. I enjoyed that. You can see there's a Twitter and Instagram and story about the author and the illustrator. Here we go. Julie Leung is the author of the Mice of the Round Table trilogy, which Booklist called a charming blend of Arthurian legend and Brian Jacques Redwall series. This is her first picture book. She was inspired to tell Tyrus's story after learning about his incredible journey as an immigrant and an artist. The daughter of Chinese immigrants herself, she believes that celebrating such stories is important now more than ever. Originally from Atlanta, she lives in New York City, where she works as a marketing director in book publishing. Tyrus's legacy and creative style have long inspired and influenced Chris Sasaki, an artist who has worked in both animation and illustration. Chris is a former character designer and illustrator for Pixar Animation Studios. Wow, where he designed characters for Monsters University and Inside Out. I just watched Inside Out yesterday. Chris has also worked for such animation studios as Jim Henson, Laika, and Tonko House. He lives in Oakland, California. Oh, so cool. What a book. Well, thanks for joining me, everyone. I'm Chrispy Patty. If you enjoyed this book, please like, subscribe, share, comment below. Till next time, keep reading and keep going on adventures. Burp, burp.